Hello there. It's been while, a long while. Nice to see you, sort of. After all this time, been very busy, as you would expect. Well, I don't know that you would, but that is my excuse. I've been very busy, and certain things take a back burner when life gets hectic, or go on the back burner, or take a back seat. That's what I meant to say. When life gets hectic, so yeah. But I am free now, and I am back with a vengeance. There's been so much that's happened, right? There's so much that's happened. Like most recently, the South Park thing. Would like to make a video just dedicated to that, but initial thoughts, or the quick thoughts are, it is South Park's thing to just bash everyone, especially it's a pretty misogynistic show. That's why I stopped watching it many moons ago, many years ago. I stopped watching it because of that reason. Like, the thing that really turned me off, I remember, was they were like making fun of Paris Hilton, I believe. This was back when I think her show was on, Simple Life, or yeah, I think that's what it was called. And they had this song mocking her, but also degrading women by using these misogynistic slurs that went stupid, spoiled, W, video playset, show the whole world what an S you are. And I was like pretty young when I heard this, and even though I wasn't using the language that I use now, I knew, like, and I wasn't like as aware of the depths of how bad this is then, but something like, I don't know, triggered alarm bells. And even in my like little modest religious brain, I was so religious back then, I still was like, this feels like I've always had an instinct that misogynistic slurs being said aloud was bad. To me, it's just as bad as any other kind of slur. It signals normalcy in disrespecting that group. So it's bad. It's bad. I think to the in the that it's normalized in the zeitgeist, and that it sort of signifies to the subconscious of men and women, but most dangerously to men, that it's kind of okay to use dehumanizing language, derogatory language towards this group. This is, in a sense, an unprotected group altogether. Just the female group, the woman group, the girl group. Because that's, if you'll notice, the groups whose slurs we, like, as a society, care about and make sure to take seriously and penalize those who use them, as we should. It's the ones that have men in them. That's like what hit me a few years ago, was that's the pattern. The ones like, and I know people are dropping like racial slurs behind the scenes. I know people are dropping homophobic slurs behind the scenes, but like, there's still something powerful, and it's a signifier of some level of respect and understanding that this is a group you cannot F with, and that you must respect, at least publicly, when it becomes a social norm to not use their slurs. So I'm sure people say homophobic slurs behind the scenes, but they're not going to do it on camera. Like, Steven Crowder probably is dropping F-bombs like you wouldn't believe, but he's not going to do it on camera. Same with, again, racial slurs, all of them. So it's a meaningful bad when slurs that target women, dehumanize women, only affect women, were originally meant to insult, put down, dehumanize other, trivialize the concerns of women. Those are the ones that, like, are free like left people who lean left say them, men who lean right say them, and there's not any like, whoa, you crossed the line with misogynistic slurs. So South Park's been like big champion of misogyny and misogynistic slurs, and they like called Meghan at least one in the clip I saw, and I think in any context it should be like forbidden, because you don't say, oh well, this gay guy is annoying, so that's why I get to use it, because that's what I always hear when I, make the argument. You shouldn't be calling, an outsider of the group shouldn't be using those slurs. It's a conversation within the group. Gay men do use, those slurs. Black people will use versions of, the N-word. And then, like, other groups will occasionally use their slurs as well, but it's like, that's within the group. There should be, and there usually is an understanding that it's different when it's coming from within. But like outsiders, so in this case, non-women should not be using misogynistic slurs ever. Ableist slurs are another one. That's like a sort of more recent one that people are taking seriously, and yet again, why? Because they, people who are disabled, that's a group that includes men in it. So like, you see Lizzo and Beyonce were like, asked to take out the words in their songs somewhat recently that were considered ableist. And so that's like, again, a signifier of who society takes seriously, and it like fits with the pattern of behavior that women in many ways kind of aren't taken seriously. But yeah, so that's like a big issue I had. Like, even though I couldn't articulate it like this, which isn't great, but I could, back then, that's like how I felt. Like, I knew the way men can openly just say these hostile things to women in a world where like assaulting women is a thing. What is it called? Yeah, femicide is a thing. Sexual assault, I'll just say it, is a thing, and women are targeted for crimes like that very often, and men do go into like, it does like normalize a perception of them, a lower, like less human perception of them, to like normalize calling them B words and H words, etc., etc. Anyway, so that's like, I clocked that without being able to like quite articulate it. I would love to go back in time and see how I would have articulated, but I like that, like that signified to me that this show was like, in a sense, my enemy. Like, that's more of how I thought of it then. Like, this show doesn't respect my sex. This show is like, it's like openly hostile to women and girls. It's like, you have to, anyway, so I haven't effed with South Park for a long time, and their humor can be so crass. I mean, they make good points every so often. I've seen clips where it's like, oh, that's, yeah, I agree, and they are communicated that belief very thoughtfully or articulately, but mostly it's very crass, and it's very messed up. But anyway, so shorter, I mean, that was a pretty long opinion, but I guess I would say that I part of me is like, okay, because people were kind of glass half full perspective-ing it, which is like, well, people make fun of, or South Park makes fun of people who are relevant, so it means Harry and Meghan are relevant, so that's my takeaway, whatever. From what I've seen of it, I've seen just clips of it, it felt, I don't know, it felt orchestrated, because Forbes pointed out in an article, they do usually explore both sides of an issue, and they kind of didn't do that here, and they were just straight up lying about Harry and Meghan's position. That's like, that's not what they've been saying, is we want privacy. There are no parallels to to the ways that they were being imitated and mocked in the show, in the episode. It's like, this is not anything like what they're actually doing. This is like a way that they are being abused. It's a very like knowingly malicious way to abuse them, to like scare them back into silence, to make them not talk. But then, of course, even when they were silent for like a year, they were still being insulted and piled on, especially Meghan, like every day, like they did Invictus last year. And Meghan, there was no like cut article, there was no Harry and Meghan Netflix, there was no autobiography, which is still a bestseller, but there was none of that, and they were still being battered, like abused, essentially, for just people knowing they exist. And you know, they were doing their work and they were still like. So anyway, the point is, boo South Park, because it felt, I mean, I'll talk about this more in a separate video, but it felt like palace PR. I mean, I don't know, they insulted Queen Elizabeth from what I saw as well, but you know how these things go. This is the group that will side with the Taliban and consider that a victory if the Taliban is criticizing them. So of course they're the type who will just ignore the slights that they depicted Queen Elizabeth shooting herself in the head. I'd seen that clip before. It's just so funny to think of how people talked about the BRF in the olden days before Meghan versus how they talk about them now. It's so like fake. It's so like, I mean, like the outrage about certain things will be fake and ramped up, and I don't know, there was a lightness before where you could mock Queen Elizabeth and it wasn't like Piers Morgan wasn't going to do like 25 minutes ranting about it. He wasn't going to tweet enraged about it in either direction. He wasn't going to tweet enraged about it, but he also wasn't going to be like, haha, that's what you get, Lizzie. It was just like, whatever, Americans, who cares? Or laugh. It was like indifference or laughter, just like when Mike Tyndall actually mocked curtsying. It was the reaction of the public was mostly ignorance. Mostly people didn't even know that happened. Like, I just coincidentally saw that article many years, well, not that long ago, but a few years ago. And yeah, it was like, it's indifference or it's amusement. But mostly it's people not even knowing that it happened. People didn't care like that. And the people who saw that it happened, they either, again, didn't care or they were amused, because who cares? But then Meghan reenacting her first curtsy and how it was too deep is like bullying. It's evil. They're just so dishonest now. It's a bunch of like racists who are just, anything Meghan does, they're going to pretend it's like the worst thing possible. It's the most disrespectful thing. She's doing elder abuse beyond the grave. She did elder abuse by talking to Oprah. It's so like dishonest. It's so clearly motivated by other issues, prejudice rooted issues. Anyway, so did I make my point about South Park clear? I mean, this is not what this is supposed to be, but it's just the most recent thing or story with Harry and Meghan. So I don't know. I'm like, yeah, they do. That's their thing. Like, and like I hate them though. They like the way they made fun of Sarah Jessica Parker. Like, if I hadn't, not effed with them before, that would have been the thing. That was so mean. I remember that era where I feel like they did it multiple times, where they just kept making fun of her looks. She was just existing, and they attacked this woman, like how dare you be. And then I think they defended it by saying, well, if she's gonna like be in commercials and on like the cover of magazines, we get to like make fun of her being ugly. And I like, they're such awful guys. It's like so many people who are behind in power positions, basically, who control media, who get to like put their narratives, put their beliefs, their agendas out. It's like because of the the origin story of America, and much of the world really, it's been white men. So like everything we see is through the white male lens, and occasionally we'll get some good ones who are like thoughtful and like, oh, it is important for women to be in a writer's room to write about women. Um, but very often they are seriously prejudiced and biased, racially and gender biased as well. And so we get piled on with their perspectives, like from the tippy top where it's like Murdoch, Rothamir, who are actually controlling sources of news, and then there's people who are like have a pulse on the culture, or have a hand, I should not pulse, have a hand in cultural content. And it's very, there's always like usually like a white male centered narrative and power structure upholding is what you're going to see. And that's what it looks like, where you're just openly misogynistic. You are like even calling a character Token. Like, if you don't know, they have a character on their show called Token because he is the only black character on the show. Well, no, that's not true. There's also Chef, but like he's the only black child character, and his name is literally Token. And that's supposed to be them like riffing off of the token black character trope, but it's like they're actually just really doing it. The main group is just white boys, supposed to be just white boys, and then like almost everyone in the town is white. Anyway, yeah, so that's a problem. Like a lot of white men with their agendas, perspectives are overrepresented behind the scenes of a lot of media and things that leave a cultural impact in the world. Family Guy is another one. Openly misogynistic. Just I couldn't, after I matured a bit, and when I realized, again, the realization is, oh, this is like an enemy show. Like, they don't respect my sex, my gender. So, not for me. And that's just a personal choice, and I just didn't watch it. Didn't like try to lead a revolution about it. I just like, it's just something you notice when you become aware, and you act accordingly if you do. Because like now today, I think that would be called getting canceled, or me canceling them. And I guess in a sense, yeah, but yeah, I mean that's just what everyone's doing. Everyone's just moving to what they like. Except I guess that's not what everyone's doing, because I feel like the other side, like the misogynist side, the racist, especially the misogynist, they don't just leave you alone. If they don't like your content, they want it gone. They want you destroyed. They want it to end. They're gonna keep like bullying you until you like stop or leave, or you're intimidated out, which is like case in point, Lily saying in her show, it's like, it wasn't just, oh, this is not for me, I'm not gonna watch this, I don't find her funny. It was, we have to tear that bee apart, and we're not gonna stop until they cancel her show, she cancels it herself, or she, I don't know, self-harms. They're like, they always, that's the thing about that, they're like, and it's connected, because it's the same type of people who hate Meghan. It's the same type of people who were some of Lily Singh's biggest harassers, and it's like they are very bad at not centering self and just letting things that they don't care for exist. They're terrible at it. The right, the misogynist, the racist even. But anyway, so I didn't like, obviously I didn't like South Park's Portrayal. It was a lie. It was just based on a lie. Maybe, yeah. Anyway. Hello. So this is Jane from the present, and all of what you just heard is actually the first part of what is now turned out to be like a 3-hour plus part of me getting into part I guess it would be part 5 of the docuseries. Yeah, that's just my nature. When I was recording that, I really, I talk a lot. I talk a lot, and I get into a lot of other topics that are connected to the many topics that part in Harry and Meghan's journey bring up and make me think of and make me want to expound on. And so that part was recorded a few weeks ago now, back when, like, just shortly after the South Park episode aired. And it was so, you see, so that is an example. That whole thing was supposed to be part of part 6 or part 5. And that was just all about South Park. So it occurred to me I could just extract this and make it its own video about South Park. That's why I think I left in, because I did edit it a little bit, just cut some things out here and there. But I do think I left in where I said, this is, I wanted to make a dedicated South Park video, and I said that because all of that was part of a video that was not supposed to be about South Park. It was supposed to be me assessing part 5 of the Harry and Meghan docuseries, and I just, as you can see, and you've seen in the past, or you could just observe from the length of my videos, sometimes they can be quite long. I can talk quite a bit. I get off topic and into tangentially related topics. So that's what happened there. Once I started talking about South Park, kind of couldn't stop, as you could hear. And so this part is to explain that, but also to expound even further, because there were more things I did want to say about the South Park episode. One thing I wanted to add about a point I noticed that I didn't fully make in that section that you just heard, is how, just about misogynistic slurs, I started to explain how people will throw out, because whenever I make this point, people are so resistant to it, men and women alike, more men than women, but still plenty of women are like, they're just so used to the normalcy of misogynistic slurs, using them. The B word is just so like old hat to everyone. It's like weirdly comfortable, and it's like, what, like, men shouldn't say what, but they always say it. Since I was a wee lass, they've always said, every every misogynistic slur, the H one, new ones like THOT, it's normal, and in a way, I keep avoiding this word, but it's comfortable. It's like fine. It's like, of course guys say that. We say that. We call each other H's and W's and B's and C's. So of course guys are gonna say it. And so like the go-to argument would be like, well, if she's being a B, then we should be able to call her a B. If she's being annoying, then that's what you call an annoying woman. But that doesn't fly for like anything else. That's the point I wanted to make. Do you notice like that wouldn't work? You don't get to say, someone calls, a gay man a slur, the one, and people get to say, oh, well, he was being annoying. That doesn't work. It's like, no, he's being annoying, but you don't cross that line. You don't get to be homophobic because a gay man is annoying you or even being a bad person. So that should apply to women. There should be things you're not allowed to call them, no matter how annoying they're being. You don't get to use racial slurs just because someone of a minority group is annoying you, right? That doesn't fly for anyone's race. For anyone of any race, that doesn't fly. You don't get to drop certain bombs because, a Jewish person is annoying you. You don't get to drop certain bombs because a Hispanic person is annoying you, right? Right? Like, people aren't going to say, oh, but he's being annoying. Oh, but she's being annoying. This Asian woman is being annoying, so I can call her this racial slur for Asians. No, it doesn't work like that. And it's like people understand that pretty effortlessly. And I think part of why it's again, I'm going to repeat this, is because men are included. When you're using racial slurs, men are included in those groups. Though all the racial slurs attack men too. It's just the thing of when something is just attacking women, including the homophobic one, because weirdly, the slur for lesbians is like so pretty normalized. You can say that one, the D word, for lesbians. It's like kind of okay to say. It doesn't get you in so much trouble. It's like, yeah, and that's like the problem. You think, oh well, this doesn't have anything to do with me, but like all the subcategories of women, all the individual types of women will be uh, unprotected because of this. It's like, so if there are slurs just for, let's say, black women, then those will be totally okay to say because women as a whole aren't protected. So of course black women aren't going to be protected, like just like lesbians, part of the women group, women as a whole aren't protected, so of course anti-lesbian slurs aren't going to be taken seriously. So it's like, even if you're not like empathetic enough to types of women who aren't you should like be selfish then. Consider that if you don't protect them, you won't be protected. If you don't get annoyed and bothered about them being slurred, that is going to, like, that does trickle down. Weirdly, the bad stuff does trickle down. It trickles down and out. It trickles to everyone. If, like, I don't know, white women aren't protected from misogynistic slurs, then no one will be protected from misogynistic slurs. But anyway, that's just a point I wanted to complete. And I just wanted to outline some issues more specifically that I had with what I've seen, because I have not seen the whole thing of the South Park episode. I've seen quite a few clips. And so, like, first of all, and I already explained this, it's just out and out misogynistic. It's misogynistic, plain as day. Calling Meghan misogynistic slurs is like the most obvious version but of misogyny, or example of misogyny. But also, like, the whole thing of portraying her as a valley girl, like the accent, making her speak in a way she does not sound like at all. And like, I know, like, they kind of did this to, like, which did tickle me, to what's his name, Al Gore. The voice they had for him was just so not like his actual voice, but that kind of made it funny. But it's like, men don't, that's not like a thing that holds men back, like being a dumb bimbo. Like, that's not a thing for men. It's like part of why that can work as an absurd joke is because it's not a thing for men to for them to be lumped into the dumb. There's no like male equivalent of a bimbo category. But for Meghan, like the valley girl, that is a stereotype that holds women back. That is a negative stereotype that is just, for Meghan, is just not rooted in reality. She just sounds something like that, and they do that a lot to women. So there's that, and then like the really dehumanizing thing of like, well, I mean, that's maybe getting ahead, but they, like, in the end they portray her as this like empty vessel. Like, she's just empty, she's just out for, they just really lean into the misogynistic trope and stereotype of Meghan and women being this manipulative, attention seeking, like, siren that made this poor hapless prince crash into the waves. They just leaned right into that. That's like what I'm talking about with the like white male perspective, when that is like so often the one creating this shit. That's, you're gonna see stuff like that. You're gonna see a lot of misogynistic tropes like that are dangerous. Like, people watch this, especially younger people watch this, and they are absorbing consciously and subconsciously this normalizing this stereotypical view of women. They absolutely are. That's like how that works. That's like unintended, or maybe very much intended, psyop, psychological operations, when you just see this this version of female over and over and over. It's like, that's not drawn from nothing. That idea that women are like lead men down like bad paths and then they get the blame for men's actions, that's like in every culture, on every continent, that is like a norm, like to blame the woman for the man's actions, to treat the woman like the supervillain who has like lured the man with her womanly wiles and her her SoCal Valley Girl voice and her like self aggrandizing whims. You know, that's like how Meghan is portrayed, and it's just so unfair and untrue. And it's just like there's so much footage of Meghan being herself, like in like dozens of interviews pre-Harry, a few post-Harry, but like really the ones especially pre-Harry, where she is just so clear and intelligent and comes off as so like thoughtful and warm and human, just, you know, fully human. And like this is like my biggest issue with this South Park portrayal. It's just, it's so dehumanizing. It's so, because it shouldn't work that you, like, a woman can just be this complex, thoughtful person. Watch her on Larry King, or talking, like being interviewed one-on-one with Larry King, and she's this clearly thoughtful person, clearly cares about many things, just like, but you can just like use her face, and she has like that conventionally attractive face, and she is female, so you can just take that face, erase who she actually is, and just throw on her this negative misogynistic stereotype, this extremely sexist stereotype of like social climber, manipulative, cares about money and blah blah blah, gold digger. And it just works. Like, it shouldn't work, but it just works because people are so readily poised to believe that stuff about women. It's a stereotype, so it just it's almost like it's already in people's mind. It's already in people's subconscious, these stereotypes about, you know, women of a certain look, women in general, but especially women of a certain look, where it just it's already there. They already assume you are that thing, that negative thing, that gold digger manipulator, and you can be as not that. You can be as intelligent, articulate, educated, passionate about so many varied causes in your private life and in your like pre-royal famous, moderately famous life as you want, as you cared about being. She was a whole UN ambassador, and like none of that matters when it's a woman. This is like, it's so like anyone who is anti-misogyny should care that it is that easy to malign and frame a woman as a negative stereotype, even though like her own words, her own behaviors contradict that stereotype. Like, she's so...
As long as you're doing stuff that's all passion purposed, you're gonna be really happy, and it makes it all worth it. I think it's an important balance, especially in our industry where it's so much about like ta-da. At the end of the day, life's not about all the ta-da, it's about stuff that's way more important than that. So take this with a grain of salt, have fun with it. It's all cool stuff, but yeah, I'm glad to be doing stuff that really matters.
Over many decades, there has been significant progress in advancing gender equality and attempts to eliminate discrimination against women. But there's still much more work to be done. Beyond the notion of it being a basic human right, there are, of course, huge socioeconomic ramifications as well. Meghan Markle is an actress who co-stars on the USA Network's legal drama Suits. She's also a UN Women political advocate for participation and leadership. That group has called for the year 2030 to be the expiration date for gender inequality. We'll get an update on that effort with Meghan, who joins me in studio. By the way, Meghan is also the founder of the TIG. That's a website for those with a hunger for food, travel, fashion, and beauty.
So yeah, the site has been a really nice resource for me to share all of those passions.
It's a website.
It's a website, yes. And it was
Called
also
just
actually
the TIG?
just thetig.com. And it's actually where UN Women reached out to me because I had written a think piece about the same sort of things we're talking about, right? About women's inequality and hoping to find a way to find self-empowerment. And because they had read this piece, they ended up saying, we would really like to work with you.
What is UN Women?
UN Women is a branch, obviously, of the United Nations, but I think as it being a young organization, what they've really been striving to do between the He for She campaign and then, of course, the work that I'm doing with them, which is specifically trying to find women in political positions, be it from a grassroots leadership level or beyond that, to say we need to have a seat at the table and we need to be leaders that are really comfortable having our voices heard, because when women are uplifted, the entire community is.
What does the work entail? What do you do?
Yes, so last February, actually, I went to Rwanda, which was incredible because Rwanda has the highest percentage of female political participants of any other country in the world. So 64% of their government is female.
Wow.
So when you see 64% of the senators being women, it just changes the conversation that's at the forefront. So I went there to meet with those leaders and then to also go to Gihembe refugee camp and to meet with female leaders at a more of a grassroots level.
My name is Meghan Markle, and I'm here because I think it's a really important campaign to be a part of. For me, I think it hits a really personal note. I'm biracial. Most people can't tell what I'm mixed with, and so much of my life has felt like being a fly on the wall. And so some of the slurs that I've heard, or the really offensive jokes, or the names, it's just hit me in a really strong way. And then, a couple years ago, I heard someone call my mom the N-word. So I think for me, beyond being personally affected by racism, just to see the landscape of what our country is like right now, certainly the world.
What are the biggest obstacles?
I think the biggest obstacles are perhaps people being set in their ways.
Entrenched.
Sure, like having a very clear, be it from what you learn at home or what you're comfortable with, change is difficult for people. And you watch some of these fathers or men who are supporting their wives or daughters in this, and perhaps in some communities, those men are shunned by their friends saying, what are you doing? You're upsetting a norm that's been comfortable for us. So it takes a lot of courage for anyone to be able to, fight against what has been customary and say, even if we've been doing this for a long time, doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing that we should be doing. And I think it's time for change. It's also been a great way for me to connect with people, like Emily, who's right here. I only know her through Twitter, and I knew she was coming because I saw it on social media.
Stop it, really?
Yes, and she's going on a trip soon to Costa Rica to do some aid work because she said that my UN stuff inspired her. I wrote you a letter. I brought it.
Okay, that is amazing.
It's so good to finally meet you.
It's so great to meet you.
I got a big letter from him. Oh, no.
I also have a letter from Seoul, who is Meghan Markle.
Oh, yeah, in Brazil.
Yes.
Oh, my
I have
God.
mine and hers, and then
I'll talk to you right after.
Okay.
We'll finish it.
Do you think your looks affect your advocacy?
Well, I think this is
You're
part
not the average American woman, Meghan, admit it.
Well, I would like to think that I
You're not.
am. Okay.
Okay.
Well, here we go. Here's what I would say about that. I think it's very important to shift this idea that, one would say, okay, you're coming on to Larry King, and you're doing politicking, so maybe wear a blazer and play the opposite and make sure you can be taken seriously. My point in all of this is that no matter what you look like, you should be taken seriously, and I think it's very important. And for me also, I think it's really great to be able to be a feminist and be feminine, to embrace both.
Is feminism still a good... I'm a feminist. I've been a feminist all my life.
That's fantastic.
Is it still a good word?
Yes, it's not the F word.
She is so thoughtful and kind and funny and intelligent and just this full person. And yet, her portrayal is so the opposite, and it's so dishonest. It's so dehumanizing. It's so inaccurate, and it's so abusive, and it's such a lie. And the hate base is doing their thing, their dishonesty, their lying thing, where they're going, oh, they nailed it, that's so her. These people who've never met her, who only have these, what she has offered, and it is the opposite of what they are saying, to judge her by. And it's just so obviously pushing an agenda. They're very obviously prejudiced agenda, because it doesn't fit. It's like who she is, what she presents, what she has done, how she's carried herself throughout her career. It is not anything like this. It is not anything like what they say. They nailed it. They nailed it according to whom? Because you've had so many conversations with her, because that's how she behaves in interviews, because she's like walking around like a Paris Hilton's character from The Simple Life, because Paris like admitted that was like a character she was playing. It wasn't like truly her. She doesn't behave like that at all. She doesn't behave like a Kardashian. She's never come off like that. So you're basing this, she's shallow and empty inside, a non-human, subhuman thing, this creature, this malevolent thing, based on what? Based on what? Based on a misogynistic narrative that you just are comfortable throwing at any woman you decide is a target, especially when that woman is a woman of color who you're targeting because you're a racist. Or because you have these bitter, negative hostilities for her, because I don't know, because you're bitter, you're unsatisfied with your own life, you have your own issues, your own agenda, generally right-wing agenda, and she represents the left to you, and so you need to malign her. You feel you need to malign her because there is no logic here. She is like this. I'm going to use the picture of Harry opening her head, face, mouth. And I want you, she's like that according to what? She's like that. How do you know? What makes you know that this is her? This is a good representation of her. Show me where she's like, we want privacy. Show me where she did anything that's the equivalent of how South Park portrayed her. How did they nail her? I'm gonna like put a bunch of clips, because like I feel like I have to now. And you, like, that's Meghan. That's actually Meghan. This complex, real human who is intelligent. But South Park's portrayal is correct. How? How is this? This is accurate in what way? Because it's lowering the humanity of a person that you do not like because of your own prejudices. That's why it's spot on and dead on to you. Spot on, dead on. About a woman you don't even know. It's like, this is not a neutral person's takeaway. Nobody who is neutral and honest is like, yeah, that is so accurate. About a person they've never met. About a person who acts the opposite in every interview, pre and post royal life. Like, what are you talking about? You're so sure she's this thing. Based on what now? Facts, please, because it's always, this side tends to be the right-wing side, and they're always the facts over feelings brigade, right? So what are these facts you're working with that have made you so certain that this is an accurate and fair portrayal of Meghan? Please, I'm waiting. I love facts. They're my favorite. So hit me with the facts. Yeah, you don't have any of those. You just have your feelings. That's the dangerous thing about the right and racists and misogynists. They are so feelings-based. For a few issues, they'll pretend to be focused on the facts, or they will be for a few issues. But overwhelmingly, that's been my issue with the right in general, is like, they are so not facts-based. Like, since I was introduced to their beliefs, their perspectives, it's like, it's very feelings-based. They are 100, well, not 100, but like 98% in their feelings. It's like almost all their arguments are feelings-based. They just have a hunch, a racist hunch, that this woman, she's the devil, secretly. No facts needed. Don't need any backing up of claims or accusations against her. just the claim itself. They can read it anywhere on Quora. Tomorrow I could decide to be a Meghan hater and say, you know what, guys, she sucks. And I heard that she threw her Starbucks cup of coffee on a baby in a Starbucks, and you guys would run with it. Like, that's an example of the type of facts that you work off of to paint this image of Meghan. That's like I'm like barely exaggerating, because that's like basically what Royal News Network, Padina, Murky Meghan, that's like, those are the facts. It's just like rumors that people made up on Quora. Those are the facts that they've used to malign Meghan all these years, since before the Oprah interview. Cannot stress that enough. And so, they take this woman, full human woman, and treat her like shit for years. She clears up a couple of the lies, and then they use her speaking to media, Oprah, to batter her some more. And none of this is honest. None of this is like real. I mean, real in that it's not honest. It's not a real and honest assessment of her. It's extremely biased. It's extremely unfair. It's extremely illogical. It doesn't make any sense. This is so ugly. It's so dangerous that it's this easy to vilify women. It's dangerous, and this is like the thing that women are up against, and that women participate in. A lot of women, or a lot of people, doing this maligning and dumping stereotypes on Meghan, and then like attacking her for this stereotyped personality they've assigned to her, are women. So that sucks. But of course, I mean, South Park creators are men, and they seem to really cut corners and costs. They like do most of the voices, and they've always done that. And like so I imagine their writer's room is pretty small. I don't actually know, but I'm guessing it is. And so another issue I had was the victim shaming. Really hate that, because South Park's Portrayal does this thing where they frame Harry and Meghan, especially Meghan, being treated so poorly as, well, I mean, really the issue is that they remove that from the narrative, as from what I saw. They like, so everything Harry and Meghan have done is like has been a response. The Oprah interview was a response, and it's not that much. The Oprah interview, the Harry and Meghan doc, and Harry's book. Then there's like cut article, but that was just like chill at home with Meghan. That was like the equivalent of a 73 Questions with Vogue, but like less. And then what else? There was another article. That was a really light, fluffy one. It was like fluff. It was a variety article. That was like, just like, what do? I do Duolingo. It was like very light, whatever questions. So it's basically like two joint interviews that were kind of big. The things that people keep calling like, what's the word they use? Explosive. The Oprah interview was explosive. Harry and Meghan doc was explosive. Their word choice, you know. And then there was the book, Spare. Yeah, and so these are like the normal kind of things that you do for the things that they're doing. Like, famous people do like interviews. You know, Harry's family have done those. One of Harry's family members, not by blood, but was like on a whole reality show, like I think called I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. And he has a podcast, Mike Tyndall, and it's like, it's just the treatment for when Harry and Meghan do things is just so different and so obviously rooted in those prejudices, because it's different. It's like illogically different. Charles is out here selling paintings and alcohol. And what other weird thing was he selling with his name, Prince Charles, like endorsed products? And like, I know one of Anne's kids, I think Anne's son, it was also like doing, was it advertisements for milk or some drink, some beverage in China or something? It's like this, like the royals have been doing stuff like this. Harry probably told Meghan, oh yeah, like my cousin, this one, Peter, is it maybe? He did this, so we'll be able to do this. Like, we can probably do this and it'll be fine. And, we'll be out of the royal rota's hair, and they won't, they naively thought they won't report on us because they're contained to, like, England. Wrong. So wrong they were. But that is what Harry explained. So, like, this is all the stuff Harry and Meghan explained in the docu-series. It's all, like, so clearly a reaction. The Oprah interview was a reaction. It's a response to lies about them. Kind of the biggest one, maybe. Arguably the biggest one. Meghan made Kate cry. That was, like, part of the interview was to clear that up for the Oprah one. And then, they were really battering her because of that. And so, like, you supposedly, I guess, saw these, and you saw these are responses, and you still chose. This is why, did I say this in the first part? I don't remember. But this is why it feels so like Charles wrote this. It feels like the Charles and William had, like, a brain trust, and they, like, wrote this, and they were like, and I guess we'll have to, like, look fair, so, like, I guess portray Gran looking like just being portrayed in a, I guess, disrespectful manner in the coffin. But it's like, it's just a visual gag. That's not, like, the worst thing. So it's like, it's bad but not too bad. I don't know. Again, I didn't watch the whole thing, so I don't know if they, like, went harder in on any other family members. I doubt it. But so, like, that is a weird choice. Like, all the people in the BRF to make fun of. This one's, like, the way they've attacked women for their looks, the way they attack Sarah Jessica Parker for her looks, but they're not touching Camilla. That's suspicious. Like all you hear about all this ugliness they've done to Harry, the favorite. You liked him, fellow ginger, one of them, one of the they're not brothers. One of the creators, Trey or Matt, is the ginger, big afro curly hair ginger, although he seems to have lost his ginger as he's aged, which happens. But fellow ginger, what a traitor. But yeah, and he saw that. He saw, Harry. He really was one of the favorites. He was the favorite after Queen Elizabeth, British royal, and you saw that. You saw how they treated the favorite. You saw him explain what it's really like. You even, I guess, got notes from his book, and you read, and like everyone, like these normies, these are like, I mean, it would be nice. I don't think that there are 4 million plus squatties, like so far the book in America, or North America alone, has sold like 4 million copies, and overwhelmingly positive reviews, like, oh, this is very insightful. Like, that is the takeaway from neutral people, from normal people, they're not like crazy Camilla new fans because they hate Meghan, not those weirdos, not derangers, and not even like Sussex fans. These are just like mostly normies who are like, okay, I'm curious, what's it really like to be in the BRF? They read it and they're like, oh, this is really insightful, and poor Harry, and wow, what a life he's led. 4 stars, 5 stars, positive experience reading this book. That's like the normal reaction. But South Park writers, and I know again they make fun of everyone, but like their reaction was like okay, how do we spin this to make Charles and Camilla look good? It was like that reaction. It was very unnatural seeming and feeling. It feels so odd. It feels so off for them to just dump on Harry and Meghan only and like lie about them to do it, and then have no critique for anyone who has put them through this. That's so odd to me and suspicious AF. But yeah, so the victim shaming, did I even explain that? Like, so here they explain in the Oprah interview, the interviews you supposedly watch, the Harry and Meghan series, they explain what actually happened, especially in the docu-series, and your takeaway after all that was to blame them and shame them for talking about it. That's not a logical response. That's not logical. That is weird. That is suspicious. That it seems like you're compromised, or you're like, or I mean, this is kind of, these would go together to some degree. You're compromised, and perhaps you are motivated by certain prejudices, like definitely misogyny, because these guys are like so shitty to women routinely. So it's odd, it's odd, it's suspicious. The way they handled this is very side-eye worthy. And then, obviously the dishonesty about the privacy demand. Harry and Meghan never said they're leaving because of privacy. There was never any equivalent of this happening in real life. There was no, we want our privacy, and screaming it in everyone's face. I will say, the concept is funny. The idea of someone screaming, I want privacy, and going around saying, I want privacy, that is funny, but it's really ugly and unfunny because it's a lie, and it's just now a new thing that the hate base, and maybe a few newcomers who just weren't paying attention, but overwhelmingly it's just the hate base, like, baiting this up. It's not like, for the most part, it's not like normal people who now care so much about hating them. It's like mostly the same old people who already hated them. But yeah, so now the hate base has a new thing, a new what do you call it, like, I guess pictures, gifs to use, and expressions to say, which is just annoying. It's like eye roll inducing type of annoying. It's like, and like just when I was like like, things are better. I don't know, just for me, I guess, because it doesn't sting the way it used to, this kind of stuff, even from South Park. There was initial, like, oh, great, like, especially with the, like, what was it, dumb prince, stupid wife thing. I was like, oh, that sucks. But it's like, there's kind of more like an and then, because it's like all the same, it's all the usual suspects who are like, oh, it's the best thing, it means Harry and Meghan are over. It's like, you guys sound so desperate to want to make that true. Like, it comes off so cringy. It's the same people. It's Angela Levin, it's Pierce, it's Megyn Kelly, has Candace Owens chimed in? I'm not sure. It's all the usual players, and then like the random right-wing accounts, and obviously all the hate accounts, the same like assholes as before. It's like, and then like the like extra like help in being zen about it is like then seeing Harry and Meghan like last night, so when I'm recording this, or this part, yeah, they had a date night with some friends, and they just looked so like good, and like I was like, that's just like, yeah, South Park makes fun of you, and then you move the fuck on, even if it's in this dehumanizing way that I personally have a problem with because of these reasons I am listing. But it's like, no skin off my back. Like, y'all do you, be be royal puppets, be like Camilla's newest, biggest fans, be in the minority of the world, because like that thing they keep saying about they pulled Americans, and Americans like Camilla and Prince Andrew more than Meghan. Okay, like that can't even, right? This is like, your lies are like crazy town territory. Like, oh, all right, okay, and are the people you pulled in the room with us right now? Like, okay, there. I don't even, if you say so. And then what else? I said dishonest about privacy demand. Already, like, even in the first part went into that. I then dishonest about Netflix. Okay, and then like, yeah, another issue, though I kind of touched on this, I guess, but just to reiterate how it's another point of annoyance, that another issue I had was how dishonest they were about how Netflix and Oprah and Spare were reactions. Spare was a long time reaction. Harry had interviews from before he knew Meghan, when he was younger, no beard, where this clip I saw where he was like, he wished he could like have his own column in the paper, and that's like where he corrected the lies that have been spread about him his whole life. And that's like what most of the book was. It was like it was just the last chunk that was about Meghan, and most of it, 75% of it approximately, was about like correcting lies from his past, from since his childhood, starting basically with the day his mom passed away, was killed. Yeah, and it was mostly about him, because I mean it was all about him, because even the stuff about his wife is about him. And yeah, and I didn't like how they treated Harry's choice to do a memoir, which something his dad and mother, both of them, have done, as like this attention-seeking thing. That's how they tried to frame it, as part of the privacy tour is him like seeking attention through his book and the Oprah interview and no, these are reactions to like type in Meghan Markle's name on YouTube, you mother effing liar. You know it's bad. It's just filled to the brim with hate and lies and rumors and lies, and so many lies since before she even did the Oprah interview. Padina, Murky Meghan, according to Taz, so many random hate accounts I've come across before there was ever an Oprah interview. When Meghan was silent, they were just spreading hate and misinformation. Like, seemed like they were like, I don't know, that's like a bit much, because like people are racist all by themselves and bitter and malicious all by themselves. So it's not necessarily like, I was going to say, it seemed like they were working with the palace. I don't know about that. But like, yeah. But this was like what was being said. Like, any article about her, when she was doing royal engagements, doing it with a smile, quietly, not complaining, not explaining, you can still see them on Extra, on Access Hollywood. You can look in the comments. It's like overwhelmingly negative. It's like she was doing the right thing, quote unquote, and she was being attacked. So like, Oprah was a response to that. The like making Kate cry, being labeled a bully. Like, what would you have her do? Like, what is she supposed to do? What is Harry supposed to do? This is like, I say this is why this feels familiar, because I said this in my in the part 5 assessment, Harry and Meghan part 5's assessment, where again the beginning part of this is from, and I'm eventually going to upload that, and you'll see it's going to be I'm going to like cut out most of the stuff about the South Park, but I will keep the intro in, and you'll see like in the full part, in the like 3-hour thing that I recorded of that, it's not even finished. I didn't even get through the whole thing. It's already 3 hours. That's why, like, I just talk, you know. And in that part, I go on about how this was like a question I've had since the beginning, since I was first noticing the hate back in 2018, again, when Meghan was still in the family, quiet, doing the job, or I should say still in England, quietly doing the job, with a smile through all that shit. And I would ask these people, what would she need to, like, it was variations of this question that I still ask today. What would she need to do to make you not hate her? Because, like, every time I jump in comment sections, she is just doing the job. What is this? Why are you attacking her for riding on bananas? Like, this is worth, like, saying she's an evil witch? Like, what is this? And like like genuinely asking what is this, and like not wanting to acknowledge this is racism was the old me. But yeah, so that's like my go-to question to this day. Like, what should she have done? What should she have done differently? What could she have done differently to make you like her? Since it's her behavior, right? That's what you'll say. It's her behavior that made you hate her, not like that she's mixed with black and gets to be a duchess. It's that she's done everything so wrong and so unforgivably wrong. So how should she have done it instead? What should she have done? Like, clearly, and I say this, clearly the problem, the issue you have with her is that she said yes. The moment she said yes to Harry saying, will you marry me, that's when you had a problem with her. That was your issue. Like, certain women don't belong there. And then there's just always this faction of, you could call it jealousy, but I feel like jealousy is too simple. But there's just like this borderline sociopathic, hateful faction of any given society that just loves to watch a woman burn. And so there's that element too, because the hate is not logical, it's not reasonable, there's no like a list of factual good reasons to even dislike her, let alone hate her, let alone so intensely, let alone make a whole channel devoted to hating her. So, okay, so yeah, that was the other thing, the framing them doing these things, the Netflix, the Oprah, Spare, as attention seeking. Like, that is such a, like, shallow and just, it's such a simpleton's way to understand things. Like, they just want attention. That's not even how, like, anyone works. People don't just want attention for attention. Like, they were saying something. It wasn't just like, look at us. Yeah, look at us here. Look at us there. They were saying something. In Oprah, they were saying, this is what we experienced. This was not true. And they would not correct it. And people were treating me this way because of it. And then they were starting to say this about my baby because of it. Like, and you're just like, oh, attention seekers. And then in the Harry and Meghan one, the Netflix one, they're explaining longer, more detailed. This is what happened. And William, my brother-in-law, my brother is involved in this. And you're like, oh, the attention these guys want. It's just attention. Like, are you dumb? You're like, this is not an honest reaction. You were like so clearly prejudiced. Like, they are telling you this crazy thing happened. They're telling you about this crazy thing they experienced, this unique thing. Like, what is the correct reaction from either? What should a husband do? This, I asked this before. You'll hear this eventually again, maybe. But yes, what is a husband supposed to do in this situation? What is Meghan, a wife, who's trying to be supportive and follow the rules and be quiet in this weird-ass, unique situation, but is, like, being maligned and dehumanized? Like, I was experiencing it as an outsider. It was so ugly. It was so mean. It was so unrelenting. And you can go look at the Daily Mail articles from while she was in the family. Read the comments. They are still up. That is, like, a time capsule of like, a glimpse of what it was like. They were done with her the day they were married. They were being mean to her, cruel to her, dehumanizing her the day they were married. And my God, when Archie was born, it was just so ugly. And she's supposed to what? What is Harry supposed to do? And then you're finding out your brother is helping and pushing out rumors. So what is the right thing to do that would have had her avoid your wrath, had her avoid your mockery, and vilifying her and painting her as this, again, siren that lured Harry into these rocks and crashed his ship into a beautiful home in Montecito. That's the other weird thing they all do, where they like try to paint Harry as a victim while calling him a professional victim and saying he paints himself as a victim. But you guys are doing that. You're painting him as Meghan's victim, and victim, how? Like, he's a victim because he's like got like newfound wealth that he earned on his own. He lives in a beautiful home, beautiful wife, beautiful kids, freedom. Like, what victim of what? Like, this is such a, like, abuser's tactic where you're like, where he's like, no, I'm fine, and I'm really happy now, guys. And you're like, no, Harry, you're miserable. Oh my, you're so miserable now. And he's like, no, I'm good. Like, I got that off my chest, and I'm like, I'm so happy I wrote my book. It was therapeutic. And you're like, no, Harry, you're so miserable. You're so sad. She's manipulating you, Harry. She's a narcissist. And actually, if you don't admit this, you are too. And I'm actually starting to hate you because you won't turn on her. Like, this is like what crazy psycho abusers do. That's what the hate base is. Like 99% of them. Oh, okay. So another thing I hated was just the general thing I wrote here. It's inaccurate. It's inaccurate. Yes. It's just an inaccurate description. Like, I'm gonna like have a picture of them holding up these "We want our privacy" signs. That is not, they've never asked for privacy like this. I mean, I imagine want a basic thing of privacy. Everyone does, famous or not. I do, you do, they do, every famous person does. Even his brother and sister-in-law do, his father does, even though they share. They, like, Charles was sharing bits of, baby, or, well, yes, baby and child and teen, well, I don't know that, well, yes, actually, yes. He was sharing bits of teen and Harry and William. He was sharing bits of his children, all their lives, but he was also wanting some level of privacy. Everyone wants privacy. Everyone wants to be able to choose what they share. And I know I don't need to explain that to most of the people who throw out the oh, I thought they wanted privacy thing as a way to batter them, because I know you understand this, because you don't live under a rock. You follow a million celebrities. You're a fan of someone, and when they do interviews, you're like, ooh, I love learning about Bryan Cranston, or ooh, I love learning about Blake Lively, or ooh, I love learning about I don't know, Sacha Baron Cohen. I don't know. I love learning about whoever I'm a fan of who's famous. And pre-Meghan, when they did do interviews, there was not this kind of reaction. Again, I just cannot stress enough how this is like true fake outrage whenever Meghan does anything that is just so human and normal that the royals used to do all the time. And it's just like this big overreaction now, because it's like, this is what racists use as cover. It's like, I don't have a legitimate reason to hate her. So now if she like blinks wrong, and I kind of mean that literally, if she blinks wrong, I will say this is a sign of how evil and narcissistic she is. I will make 10 videos about her blinks being a sign of narcissism, not even exaggerating that much, because they do actually do a version of that. This is like what racists do. This is what sociopaths do with an agenda. Like, what she represents, it goes against what they like and are interested in preserving. And that, so this is their agenda, is to vilify her and like have fun and make a buck doing it. Because these are the like psychotic types of yesteryear who they would have been a lot more violent. I'll just, like, that's not really subtle. They would have been more violent. There was that faction in our society since forever. The violent types, the racist violent types, the misogynistic violent types, the sociopathic, like, I just love a good witch burning types. They've always existed. They don't get to do that now, though. So, like, this is how they cope. They, like, batter in this way where they get to use their words. I mean, they get to and, like, have to, because that's, like, what they've been relegated to in fill-in current year. Because it's just not okay to, like, handle this, rage they have inside them the way they used to. The outlet isn't there anymore to be so hands-on with the handling of things. So they type mean words and say mean things, and, I mean, then some of them are legit, like, crazy and stupid. All at the same time with the, like, she's really 45, guys. Even though she did a Nickelodeon thing, and she was clearly like 12 or 13 there, and we could just do basic math because we know what year that came out, and if we just did basic math we would say, oh yes, she is 41, but no, she's 45. She's secretly 45. Like, you dumb. Okay. Did I finish my point? I hope I did. But then, like, yeah, also mean, evil, and cruel. just all those together. Just the whole thing was like to like watch them explain themselves so thoroughly, and then walk away from that and make this, like, see how, yes, they were victimized. They were victimized. They still are victimized, but they're also victors. Like, they're winning. It's like a lot of pain, a lot of sadness along this journey. It's a rough journey. They are being victimized. They are victims, but they are also victors. Like, I'm not them, but if I were them, like, you're not going to shame me out of acknowledging my victimhood. Yes, I am a victim. Yes, I will talk about it sometimes. But, like, you know, I'm also a victor. But yes, I was victimized. I'm still victimized. Look at you. Look at what happens when you type in my name. Look at how old this shit dates back to. This was, like, started when I was quiet. And you were doing this to me. You were treating me like a non-human and, like, getting so much glee out of it. Yeah, you were victimizing me. But I'm also a victor, so... Oh, she was just so... They looked so, like, chill at that date night. That was so nice to see. But yeah, but like, to the choice to, like, even if they can be zen about it, even though I can be zen about it, it is still very worth acknowledging this, aspect of our species, this type within our species who is capable of being so mean and evil and cruel, because I think that portrayal was, like, it was mean and evil and cruel, but it is also nothing new. Like, South Park, I mean, maybe a little new, maybe, I haven't seen, like, all their latest stuff in, like, the last, probably 10 years, so I don't know how one-sided they can get, really, but the new part maybe is, like, they didn't even touch Camilla. That is odd. They are so mean to, ugly women. They are so mean to women they think are ugly, and come on, Camilla, come on. And I don't know, maybe they did, and but I feel like one of the people I follow would have pointed out, like, a joke they made about Camilla, but so I haven't seen that. So nothing about Camilla, nothing about Charles, nothing about tampons, but the Todger, okay, all right, it's a choice. It's a choice. Who like, between these two, like, the big guy to take down is the BRF. And you had no problem doing it before. You loved to do it before. You loved to, like, take them down a peg. And now you're choosing, like, the like, most brave of that system. The ones who, like, left. The ones who said, this is, like, some of the shit they've done. And you chose to attack them. And not the big bad baddies yet. I don't know what their future holds. I doubt it, though. Just the energy of this episode, it feels like they're probably not going to go there. They probably don't plan to go there with the BRF. We'll see. I don't know. But it was a very mean, evil, and cruel thing. All of it is. All of, obviously the hate accounts are, but, like, all of what Joanna, what's her face, even Seth. I talk about this too in part 5. Seth Meyers kind of joining in a little bit. I really expound on it there, so I won't bother doing it here. But, like, I will repeat, because I say this there. It was extra, like, ugh, because he's a Northwestern alum. Just like the ginger trader that is, I want to say, Matt Stone. Seth is such a traitor. As a Northwestern, you're a wildcat, and you betrayed a fellow. Oh, like, I took that personally. Fuck you, Seth Meyers. Yeah, it sucks, but you know what? Gotta keep it moving. And then I wrote one on the list of things I hated about it. It felt like incel humor. It did, because it pushed that narrative of women are evil harpies and manipulative, even when they're articulate and thoughtful, and they're humble, and they're so gracious and grateful to be, like, get this dream job, and every time it comes up they mention how lucky they are to land a role like Suits, and they're just blessed and doing good work and on the UN or being a UN ambassador, and helping out around the world and wanting to promote that and be a global, like, do global charity, even though they're all of that. No, she's just a dumb bee. She's just a dumb bee and a C and all the other misogynistic slurs. She's just a woman, just a dumb female. You know, females, they're all, if you give them just a little bit, they're all really deep down gold diggers. And so many women are just like, yeah, she is one of them. It's just like, when women are misogynist, that's like double dagger. No, double dagger is when, in this case, when black women are misogynists or like engage in misogyny to attack Meghan, engage or like put misogynistic tropes and stereotypes onto her. That's the double dagger. Women of color in general, but like especially black women. Yeah, incel humor, I said. Really, and that's like this is who it like, what's the word, like, empowers, I guess. Like, it's the young, like, 13-year-old boys who are like, yeah, women are B-words, women are, like, bad. Like, that's, like, what they're absorbing. But, like, whatever, I guess. At least Meghan is being attacked, so that's fun for you. Okay, so this kind of is connected to the incel humor thing, because I expound a bit further and I say, it normalizes blaming women for the, I kind of said this actually already, but yeah, it normalizes blaming women for the decisions within hetero couples. Yeah, because it portrays Harry, because again, I've said this a few times now, but I wrote it here as a separate point. It portrays Harry as led astray by a siren instead of as a guy who, with his own eyes, observed something was wrong and decided to do something and reacted to it. No, it's Meghan. She's empty inside. She's like not even human. He opens her non-human mouth and just looks inside and it's hello, hello. It's empty. She's empty. She's not a person, guys. So she deserves this. Because that's what it signals to people. She deserves this. Attack her more. Maybe we can get her to hurt herself. It's that kind of energy. That's why I say it's mean, it's evil, it's cruel. But like they know that, so it's like it's not like pointing that out does anything. But it's just worth noting. It's mean and it's evil, and it's a choice to be this evil and cruel. Normalizes treating women as responsible for men. So people continue to subconsciously absorb the societal directive to view women as troublemakers and responsible when men make decisions, as if controlling him with magic. Yeah, I said that. I wrote that. It's, yeah, I mean, down to the, like, this is a popular point of attack for the body language guy, is to say, like, Meghan touching Harry's back or like making any physical contact with him is her like controlling him, in like implying, like I really understand now. Like I would learn about this stuff pertaining to how women were accused of being witches, and like thinking, no way, how like our species, especially learning this as a kid, like thinking adults can't think like that. It must have been a crazy dumb time to be alive. But now, being a full adult, it's like, oh, I see. Like, we're still like that. Like, there's a huge faction of our society that is still, if they could burn, like, if they could burn, Beyonce is like witch number one, they would burn. If they could burn Beyonce at the stake, they absolutely would. It's like, admit you're a witch, or prove to us you're not, which how do you prove you're not a witch? You can't. Just like you can't prove you're not a narcissist once you've been called that. It's like the perfect thing for racists to hide behind and sociopaths to hide behind. Call them women these things that they can't even disprove. So it's like, yes, and you have to admit you could be wrong in that assessment, right? You could be wrong about someone being a narc, but how would you know you're wrong? How would you know you're wrong? If I call someone a narc and I'm wrong about that, how can they prove to me that they're not a narc? Because now you're doing the thing where it's like everything she does, being quiet is signs of narcissism. Going out is signs of narcissism. Blinking too much is signs of narcissism. So it's like very convenient what you've done here. You're the like malicious manipulator and racist and the narc here. It's like so much projection happens with this type, and it's like the perfect kind of thing to do, because like you want to like make people look away from you and your like faults. You like accuse someone else of it. And you create an impossible situation, because that's an impossible situation. No woman accused can disprove she's a witch. No woman accused can disprove she's a narc. She's forever that. And now you're turning narc into something, again, almost mythical and magical. They have magical powers. They touch their husbands and their husbands go, yes, honey. And it's like, so now you make it this magical evil thing, this non-human beast-like thing, because it needs to be the most evil type of existence, narcissistic existence, because you need to be able to say, because she is that thing we're calling her a narc, that we've decided she definitely is and she can't prove otherwise, we get to batter her and treat her like a non-human, a subhuman, with cruelty, because that's how you treat narcs. Remember, narcs are evil. It's like the perfect like malicious sort of manipulation that racist and every other kind of prejudice type gets to hide behind. It's perfect. Okay, and then the last point I have written down here regarding my gripes with this episode is that it sets an unsafe foundation for people to further lack empathy for women and treat them as deserving of harm if they are ever harmed, especially by that man. Oh, and then misogynistic hate speech. Yeah, that's actually the last point. But yes, the that's the thing, because like, thank God Harry's a good guy, and I just don't see this in him. But God forbid if he ever went nuts, if he ever became violent, there would be this faction to say, well, she was a narc, guys, and we've established over the last like 5-6 years, narcs are like the most evil, witch-like, demonic creatures ever. Isn't like haven't racists like been the actual like most destructive force on the planet? Like Hitler, his like main thing was how racist he was, and like Putin, he's like doing a war right now, and like so much of the violence that's happened on the planet has like been rooted in dehumanizing people en masse and been done by men, and that's like been the most dangerous thing ever on this planet, is like racist perceptions. Nope, it's actually just narcissism, specifically female narcissism. There's nothing quite like female narcissism. It's actually the most dangerous thing on the earth, much more dangerous than any dictator or male bad guy or warmonger, who all happen to be male pretty much, that you've ever even heard of. No, yeah, you should really look into this. This is why I focus on it so much, because it's actually the most the biggest threat to our planet. It's worse than any other kind of terrorism. It's the worst terrorism, is the female mind. They're very scary, very dangerous, and those evil eyes, ooh, when I tell you, it means they're plotting, and those plans are big. 100, 1,000, 1,000,000 years in the making. We haven't quite seen it yet, but know that they are plotting. When the female mind is on, it is plotting, and it is dangerous, which again is why I focus on it so much, because it is such a big problem in our world. The biggest, actually, bigger than any male threat ever. Bigger than racism, bigger than misogyny. My fixation and obsession with hating this woman, maybe it's irrational. Okay. But it's fine. Because her plans are just, they're like things that we can't even conceive. It's beyond what your wildest nightmares could think of. Don't quite know them. I do believe that becoming president of the United States is involved. Haven't gotten that verified in any way, but I suspect. I'm a bit of a clairvoyant. I kind of can read female minds. I know this stuff, and I believe part of her plan, part of her plotting, her big grand scheme plan, involves becoming the President of the United States, and we all know what that would lead to. I don't even have to say it. I'm not even going to say it. I'm not even going to dignify you're looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm not even going to dignify that with a response or any kind of explanation. But just know, I know, that that is definitely a thing she is plotting. It is part of her grand master plan. Harry is involved. There's going to be a takedown of the royal family, but also she wants her kids to have titles because she's greedy like that and she thinks it's a status symbol, but also she wants to destroy them. It's really crazy. The female mind is crazy. I mean, her mind, just her. I definitely don't think this about all females. I mean women. I mean females. So that's something we ought to look out for. That's why I do this. That's why I do what I do. It's to warn the public, because there's nothing more threatening than this. You think that, you know, you're gonna get like mugged or assaulted by some man. No. Meghan Markle, she's the one. She's coming for you. Just you wait. This is why I do what I do. You don't understand. This is why I do what I do. It is a threat like you've never known. I promise. I know. I feel it in my bones. Also, facts don't care about your feelings. You kind of looked like you were going to start talking about your feelings. And I just wanted to remind you that facts do not care about your feelings. Just a reminder. It is a difficult and lucrative job, and, you know, someone has to do it. It's just lucky that I already have this mindset here that helps me hone in and focus on these real, serious threats to our species and our way of life. You're welcome. Because I have looked into Meghan Markle's eyes. You've met her? No. I've looked on a screen into her eyes on my iPhone. Into her eyes, though. Into her eyes. And I have to say, terrifying. Truly. I feel for Harry. And if he ever abandoned her, I would take him back. A little bit of... penalize him a little bit, but I would ultimately forgive the guy. You can't blame a guy for getting sucked in by a snake succubus witch lady. So, like, that's the kind of energy it feels like we're working against. It really is that crazy. If you, like, really get into their theories, just watch their videos, hear them talk. It's a bunch of really malicious, misogynist and racist and nutty, stupid people, and yeah, they really earned their name. Deranged, for sure, 100%. Alright, so lastly, I want to say, Meghan is a human. Meghan is a complex human. She has children, and a husband, and is good, and tries to do good, and tries to use her platform to do and spread good. On South Park, she is a stereotype, conceived by misogynists, down to her don't take me seriously Valley Girl voice. Dehumanizing a complex human who is already being victimized on an unprecedented scale and propagandized as non-human and deserving of inhumane treatment is an evil, evil act. She is a paycheck and punching bag for so many misogynists and racists and bitter types who needed cover and an outlet for their racist and or misogynistic and or bitter hostility. IDRH. Something I really want to talk about. Stands for illogical and depraved racial hostility. IDMH is illogical and depraved misogynistic hostility. And IDH is just illogical depraved hostility. We're working with a very illogically depraved type, and their primary motivations can be racial, can be misogynistic, and sometimes it's just a bitter hostility for bitter hostility's sake. And that's what we're working with. That's what Meghan is up against. But, I mean, she has more she has more defenders than I've ever seen. So it's this weird thing. It's like such a, like, because what's happening is, like, I was aware of this faction of hatred on, like, YouTube, right? But I avoided them for the most part. Like, I really didn't delve in. I would occasionally, like, download a video because I'm like, I want to respond to this someday if I ever, like, get the, like, something to, like, watch it. I want to respond to it. Like, I downloaded a bunch of random videos, like, some back in the day, some a little more recently. That was, like, my plan to do someday. And so far I haven't, but hopefully one day. I'm feeling more up to it. But I didn't, like, watch them. I didn't really consume them that much. It was, like, a rarity to actually sit and watch a hate video about her. And now I've been doing that, like, especially within the last, like, 3 months more than, like, I ever have. And so I'm seeing, so, like, technically I'm seeing more hate, but I'm, like, the weird thing is, like, I'm seeing more love without even searching for it. Like, I swear, like, under E! News articles, under Vogue articles, used to be so negative before she did any interview, before she did, certainly before, like, the in-between between Oprah and the, like, Netflix doc, and, like, even before the Cut article, or interview, in that spot, it was, like, 95% negativity if any outlet posted about her. And now it's like 50-50. So it's like glass half full. It's like, I know it's the baddies, the meanies are still there, but, like, there's so many niceys. There's so many, and it's just been, like, such a joy to watch. And now, I'm sorry, I hate to, like, but I can't help it. So, like, now when, like, Vogue posts, like, Kate and William, it used to be sycophant town. It was just sycophant nation, sycophant, just a room of sycophants. Just, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful, she's perfect, she's not like that other Duchess we hate. Like, and I'm not exact. That was, like, the first thing I noticed in the beginning. Like, Kate got a whole, because I was following the Kensington Palace page before I was following, or before Harry and Meghan were together. Like, I was just following Meghan and the rest of the cast of Suits, the main ones, and the Kensington page, and I would, I was following so many people. I would happen upon them on Instagram. I'm talking about every so often. Like, I had so many people I was following that, like, I wasn't, like, abreast of every single post they made, because, like, when you're following 2,000 plus people, it's just, yeah, anyway, so I was aware of what Kate's fan base looked like. It was small. It was modest. And then Meghan came in, and, like, all of a sudden the racists were like, she's our girl. She's our girl. She's the one. We have to, like, and her fan base must have grown by, like, 10,000%, I swear. And so she's like, she doesn't have fans. She has Meghan haters. It's like, she has deranged Meghan haters who are like, and so that was the thing I noticed. Like, I would go under the KP, even before Harry and Meghan had their own, like, Sussex page on Instagram. Every time Kate would do an engagement anymore at that beginning stages, 18, even 17, when they were doing, like, little things together, or the one thing together, the comments were filled with, oh, well, this is how a real Duchess dresses. Kate is so, like, poised, unlike that other Duchess. She'll never be royal. And that was, like, I swear that was, like, 90% of the comments. It was, like, not even, and to this day, this remains their, like, habit. They cannot just compliment Kate. So, like, a significant number of them have to, like, make a dig about Meghan. So that's why she doesn't have real fans for the most part. She has some fans who, like, have been following her from day one. Shout out to them. But, like, she also has, mostly, it seems, Meghan haters, mostly racists, who's, like, she's an avatar. She's just, like, a symbol to them of whiteness, white womanhood, full whiteness, full white womanhood. Because Meghan is white. She's just also black. But, yes, and I just, my philosophy is, like, I don't want to, like, I'll, like, start and then half an hour later I'll have ranted about what I think about the mixed identity. It's very simple. The simple fact is that people like Meghan, mixed race people, are all the things that they are. Meghan is black and Meghan is white. That is the fact. I don't care if there's a whole legion of white people who say, you can't sit with us. Fuck off, fuck you, who cares? It's not about you. It's just a fact of her biology. It's not a flex when a mixed person says they're also white. It, like, I know sometimes mixed people are like, they are trying, like, yes, there's an element of that can be true, but for the most part, and in this context, and the way I'm talking about it, is just a fact of her biology. She is white. If she called herself Caucasian, and she never did, but if she did, that would be fine because she is. She is Caucasian. She's half Caucasian. So she gets to say that because she is. She's Caucasian and she's black. She's both. That's what mixed people are. They're all the things that they are. She gets to say she's both because she's both. Like, this is not, it shouldn't be this complicated. Tracy Ellis Ross, she's white and she's black. Even though she looks more black and people see a black woman, she is a black woman, but she's also white. That just, like, maybe you don't want to say a white woman because there's a social identity tied to that terminology, fine, but biologically she's also white. That's just, like, that's all I'm saying. That's all. If that's what a mixed person is saying about themselves, that is, they should be allowed to say that. And I have to tell black people, sorry, like, you have to, like, be okay with that. I know sometimes mixed people can be, like, gloating about it, and they can have a hubris about it, and they can have like colorist ideas, racist ideas, sort of internalized racist ideas, if you want to think of it that way, about it. But if they're just stating it as a fact when it's relevant to state it, you have to let them be able to state it. Like, mixed people need to be able to claim they're not ethnic, I guess, half, because that is part of it too. Like, black people can get really sort of possessive in that way about mixed people claiming anything other than their black part. Anyway, but that's all. I don't want to get into the whole thing with that. But Meghan is white and black. She's both. There. It's that simple. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, that is the conclusion to this. She's black and white racially, and she's a human species-wise, and she's complex, and she's sweet, she's overwhelmingly good, she's a good person, no matter what South Park says, she's not empty inside, she's a whole human, and, like, that is especially ugly, that was especially evil to think about when I remember, I think it was in part 5 too, where she's, like, crying because, like, of this part, where that was, like, the cry that made me actually tear up, was, because that's what I had been experiencing as a fan of Suits and then a fan of her. It's like part of what is happening is this identity. I mean, I've said it a million times though. It's like it's dehumanization. It's taking away her humanity. It's like, and then trying to frame her as this thing she is not. And South Park just did that in a really public, ugly, aggressive way, where they're like, they did that thing. You saw her cry about this. You've seen her, like, just be a human, thoughtful. But no, like, it's that, like, this is how dehumanization, or how easy it is to dehumanize women, but especially women of color. I do think those writers have that racist bias. Unconscious, though, maybe it's unconscious, I don't know. But it's there to be able to see her. Like, you see her cry, her eyes out about, you know, so her, I forgot what that person was called, like, not a life coach, but like a kind of a therapist, meditation leader, therapist, coach type of person, was saying, you don't have to prove yourself, you know who you are. And it was like, I was like, because, like, that is, like, what I've been seeing. I'm seeing them, I know I don't know her, but you can get a sense of her personality. Look at those old interviews, you, like, do it without, I don't know how to tell someone to turn off their racist biases. Do it, pretend it's Kate, I don't know. Do what you gotta do to see her as a human as she's saying these words. And then to see that and, like, just go, nope, you're an evil gold-digging witch, and I'm gonna portray you like that on my show, and send that to all the little boys and girls. That is just, it's so evil. It's so evil. And maybe Meghan's just, like, accepted that that's gonna happen, and is used to it, because we saw her post all this, I think this was like 3 weeks ago now, that the South Park episode aired, and she was smiling and just like, I'm gonna live my life, Oh, and her coffee thing. Her, the Clever Blends. Ooh, Clever Blends is amazing. BT dubs. You gotta love women supporting women. She's like, it's like, this is like what I would eventually just resign myself to do. I'm just gonna be me, support my causes, call me a witch, call me non-human, call me the devil's bestie, call me the devil herself. I can't make you stop, so have fun, make your money, peace. I don't know. Like, I gotta live my life. I have kids who are just amazing, and I'm gonna just, focus on them, and I got a husband who's like, girl. Like, and that too is like, it's such a funny thing when people are like, Harry's like the bad one, William is the, like, no sane woman, no woman being honest who is sane would ever in a million years choose a William over a Harry. Harry is the pinnacle. Prince Charming in real life. Flawed. He is flawed. But he is like trying. And like that is so rare for men. He's trying. He is doing the work that men almost never want to do. Oh my gosh. He's chivalrous, old-fashioned, like, I melt every time he, like, stands protectively, opens the door for her, holds her hand. He is who you want your daughter to end up with. You don't want you, no, these people are liars. You don't want your daughter to end up with a guy who's walking 10 miles ahead of her, who's, like, sticking his finger in her face. Like, come on. These, like, again, I've said this in another video before. The racists, the misogynists, the Meghan haters, the bitter liars, they lie, and they will say up is down, they will say black is white, they will say good is bad. Never forget that. These people will say Taliban makes a good point. These people will say Putin, not so bad, at least he's not BLM. These people will say, you know, I'm usually homophobic, but I don't know, Kevin Samuels makes some good points. You know, they'll lie to push their agenda. They'll lie to be able to hate their target. So never trust them. They're liars. Candace Owens is the biggest grifter. Just had to throw that in there because it's just so ironic. Like, she's like the griftiest grifter that ever grifted. 1 minute she's making a doxing website and like making fun of Trump's like small hands and tiny penis, and now she didn't just do it like, I'm neutral now and I can see the flaws in both sides. She went full 180 and was like, I'm all the way on the other side, and there's nothing wrong with Trump. He is a perfect man, and he is so relatable. I can't, like, there's a clip of her, like, on Joe Rogan's podcast saying, like, and Joe is like, what are you talking about? She's like, you got to admit that the Obamas are at least relatable. They're so likable. And she's like, no, Trump is likable. Trump and the mute wife who is a sex worker with the weird, cold, quiet, only kid that they have, and that's his third wife too. That is so relatable and fun and sweet, and makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. The Obamas with their 2 daughters and their nuclear family, bleh, that's not relatable. Ugh. That was like basically what she said, but in a less silly way. I mean, it was just as silly because it was so absurd, but griftiest grifter who's ever grifted and is now saying Meghan's a grifter. Yeah, it's projection. It's not even projection. They're just lying. It's a lie. Because I feel like projection implies like they're like sort of unknowingly putting their like faults on someone else. She's just straight up lying. She's like, what am I? And I know that about me. I'll just say she does it. She's the narcissist. She's the grifter. Ugh. Candace is a disgrace. So is Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly is ugh. Megyn Kelly is a what do you call those? What do you call that type of dog? The like attack dog. I mean, an attack dog. Both of them are that though. Both of them are attack dogs for the right, against their self-interest. I mean, they're very specific self-interest. Yes, they individually are like protected under that, but like they throw women and black people and black women especially under the bus. Candace will do it for how much? 10 nickels? I'll do it. I'm there. Megyn Kelly, she's always down. She'll do it for free. She'll be racist for free. You don't need to pay her for that. Okay, alright. I'm done. This episode sucked, and they did what they do. They did their misogynistic thing. They went in there and did their thing. And but Meghan and Harry are going to be fine. And actually, the latest news is the Frogmore thing. If I start, I'm going to like really go in because I have a lot to say about that. But also, simply, it's a little sad, but they are not homeless, so it's not that sad. Charles and Camilla are monsters. Alright, thank you for listening and watching, and until the next video, bye!